Long ago, in the middle of green valleys and quiet rivers, there was a village named Darwa. The people of Darwa lived simple lives, farming the land and caring for their families. Yet, at the edge of the village stood an ancient temple that no one dared to enter. Inside the temple sat a stone chair, and on that chair was a woman who never aged. Her name was Lyra. Lyra had lived for 200 years, though she did not look older than 20. Her skin was pale, her hair black as night, and across her eyes was a white blindfold tied so tightly that no one had ever seen beneath it. The elders of the village told stories of Lyra's eyes. They said her gaze could burn fields, shatter stone, and call storms from the sky. Others whispered that her eyes showed visions of the world's end. Because of these fears, the people of Darwa warned every new generation with the same words: never touch the blindfold. For 2 centuries, those words were obeyed. The villagers came only to leave offerings of fruit, milk, and grain at the temple's steps. They prayed for rain, good harvests, and protection from sickness. Many believed that as long as the blindfold stayed in place, the village would remain safe. No one asked questions. No one tried to learn the truth. But times were changing. Crops had started to fail, the river ran thinner each year, and sickness spread among animals. The younger villagers began to wonder if the old rules were still wise. Among them was a boy named Aaron. Aaron was unlike the others. Where most obeyed tradition without question, Aaron was curious. He liked to wander near the temple and stare at the quiet figure inside. He often wondered if Lyra was truly alive, or if she was only a statue given strange life by the stories of the elders. He asked questions no one liked to answer. Why was she blindfolded? Why had she not aged? And most of all, what would really happen if the cloth was removed? One evening, while the sun painted the sky orange and gold, Aaron climbed the worn stone steps of the temple. His friends called after him, warning him to stay away. Even his grandmother, who had raised him since childhood, begged him not to anger the old powers. But Aaron's heart was restless. He felt as if the truth of Lyra's eyes was tied to the troubles of the village. If no one else would seek it, then he would. Inside the temple, silence ruled. The air was heavy, as though it had not been touched for centuries. Dust floated in the beams of fading sunlight. There she was, sitting as always upon her stone chair, her hands resting calmly on her knees, her face hidden behind the blindfold. Aaron stepped closer. His heart beat hard in his chest, each thump louder than the last. He whispered her name, but she gave no answer. He touched her hand, expecting the chill of stone, but it was warm, soft, and alive. Aaron pulled back in shock. Then he saw something he had never noticed before. The edges of the blindfold were damp, as though tears had soaked through the cloth. His breath caught. Could she be crying after all these years? Aaron knew he should leave. The warnings of his elders rang in his ears, yet the sight of those faint tears burned into his mind. If she wept, then she must suffer. And if she suffered, then perhaps the blindfold was not protection, but prison. With trembling fingers, Aaron reached for the knot at the back of her head. His hand shook so much he almost pulled away, but some deep force pushed him forward. Slowly, carefully, he untied the knot. The blindfold loosened. The cloth slid down, falling into Aaron's hand. At that moment, Lyra's eyes opened. Aaron froze. What he saw did not belong to the world he knew. Aaron could not move. His body felt frozen, as if the air around him had turned to stone. Lyra's eyes were open at last, and what they revealed was unlike anything he had imagined. Her eyes did not look human. They glowed with a light that shifted like rivers of gold and silver. Deep inside, he saw shapes moving, like stars turning in the night sky. He felt as if he was staring into a whole universe, endless and alive. The light pulled him closer, whispering without sound. He forgot the temple, the village, even his own name for a moment. All that existed were those impossible eyes. Then Lyra blinked, and the glow dimmed, though it did not vanish. Her lips parted, and for the first time in 200 years, she spoke. Her voice was soft but carried an echo like many voices speaking as one. "Why have you done this?" she asked. Aaron's throat was dry. He wanted to answer, but words stumbled. I wanted to know the truth. I saw the tears. I thought maybe you were suffering." For a long time she only studied him. Then slowly she smiled. It was not cruel, not angry. It was sad. "You are brave," she said. "Or perhaps only foolish. No one else has dared in centuries." Her voice filled the temple, and the air felt lighter, though the silence outside grew heavy. Aaron swallowed hard. "Are you dangerous?" She lowered her gaze. "Yes, and no. My eyes are a gift and a curse. They do not belong to this world. That is why they were covered." Aaron frowned. "Who put the blindfold on you?" Lyra's fingers touched the stone arm of her chair. Her nails scraped across it like she was remembering something long buried. "Long ago, when I first appeared here, the people feared me. I had no memory of where I came from, only that my eyes carried power. A single look could change the sky, move the earth, or break the hearts of men. The elders tied the blindfold and I allowed it. Better to be bound than to bring ruin." Her words pressed heavy on Aaron's chest. He thought of the failing crops, the dry river, the sick animals. He wondered if her power, hidden away for so long, was connected to the suffering of the village. "What happens now?" he asked. Lyra looked at him again, her glowing eyes brighter than before. "Now the world decides. Once the blindfold is removed, fate cannot be undone." Aaron's stomach turned cold. "Does that mean danger will come?" Lyra tilted her head. "Not danger. Change. The two are often the same." Before Aaron could reply, a sound rose outside the temple. A deep rumble shook the ground beneath his feet. Dust fell from the high ceiling, and the stone walls groaned. Aaron ran to the doorway and looked out. The village lay below the hill, and beyond it stretched fields and mountains. The sky, once calm, was no longer the same. Clouds twisted in strange shapes, glowing faintly as though fire hid behind them. The wind rushed with a sound like 1,000 voices chanting. The villagers screamed. They pointed toward the temple, crying that the old curse had been broken. Some dropped to their knees, begging the gods for mercy. Others gathered stones and sticks, preparing to rush the temple in fear. Aaron's heart pounded. He turned back to Lyra. She still sat calmly, though her eyes glowed brighter, spilling gold light onto the temple floor. "They will come for you," Aaron said. "They always come," she replied quietly. "But it is not me they must fear. It is what has been waiting for release." As she spoke, the ground shook harder. Cracks spread across the temple floor, glowing faintly like molten fire beneath the stone. Aaron stumbled back. "What is happening?" Lyra rose to her feet for the first time in 200 years. She stood tall, her hair falling around her like a dark river. "The blindfold was not only for me. It sealed a doorway, hidden inside my gaze. And now that it is gone, the doorway opens." Aaron's breath caught in his throat. A doorway? To what? Lyra looked at him with sorrow in her shining eyes. "You wish to know the truth. Now you will see it." The cracks widened. From the glowing lines beneath the floor, something stirred, something vast and ancient. Aaron felt the air pull toward the temple's center, as if the world itself was being drawn inward. The villagers outside shouted in terror. Some fled, others still ran toward the temple, desperate to stop what they did not understand. Aaron could not run. His feet felt rooted. He could only stare at the rising light. The impossible had only just begun. The temple trembled as if the hill itself was alive. The glowing cracks on the floor widened, and a deep hum rose from beneath the stone, steady and powerful like the beating of a giant heart. Aaron stumbled back, shielding his face from the brightness. Lyra stood tall in the middle of the storm. Her eyes glowed brighter than fire, yet she did not move away. The light reflected on her pale skin, making her look less like a human and more like a figure carved from stars. Aaron's voice cracked as he shouted, "What is coming out of the ground?" Her answer was calm but heavy. "Not something new. Something old. something that has been waiting since the first stone of this temple was placed. The hum turned into a roar. From the glowing cracks, smoke and sparks poured out, filling the air with the smell of burning earth. A column of light shot upward, piercing the temple roof and rising into the darkening sky. The clouds twisted and swirled around it, creating a hole in the heavens. Through that hole, Aaron thought he saw shapes moving, shadows larger than mountains, wings that spread across the sky. The villagers cried out in terror. Some dropped their weapons and ran, but others, driven by fear, charged up the hill toward the temple. Their feet pounded the stone steps, their shouts echoing with anger and panic. Aaron turned to Lyra. "They think you caused this. They want to stop you." Her glowing eyes softened as she looked at him. "They are not wrong. The blindfold was placed to keep them safe. Without it, the seal is broken. But this is not only my doing." "You removed the cloth." Aaron's chest tightened. "Then this is my fault." She shook her head slowly. "It is not fault. It is destiny. You were meant to free me, and now we must face what comes." The villagers burst into the temple, their faces pale with fear, their hands gripping sticks and stones. At the sight of Lyra's shining eyes, they screamed curses, calling her a demon. One of the men raised a spear and rushed forward. Before he could strike, the ground split open completely. A shockwave knocked everyone off their feet. The floor shattered, and from the center of the glowing cracks a figure began to rise. At first it was only light and shadow, twisting into shape. Then the outline grew clear. It was not a beast of flesh, but a figure of pure energy, tall as a tree, with arms like rivers of flame and eyes like black holes. Its roar shook the walls of the temple until stones fell from the ceiling. The villagers froze in terror. Their courage turned to dust, and many fled at once. Aaron lay on the floor, his hands shaking as he tried to push himself up. "What is that thing?" he whispered. Lyra's voice was steady, though sorrow lingered in her tone. "It is a guardian. Long ago it was bound beneath this temple to keep balance between worlds. My eyes were the key to its prison. The people feared me, but it was not I who threatened them. It was what I held locked away." The giant figure of light spread its arms wide, and the sky outside tore open further. Winds howled, pulling trees from the ground and shaking the roofs of the village below. The villagers' screams filled the night as the world seemed to break apart. Aaron forced himself to his feet. "Can it be stopped?" Lyra's eyes turned to him, burning bright like suns. "Stopped, no. Controlled, perhaps. But only by one who can meet its gaze without falling into the void." Aaron's heart raced. "You mean me?" She nodded once. "You freed me. The bond is yours now. You must stand where I cannot." Aaron felt fear clawed his chest. But when he looked at the villagers below, their lives trembling in the storm, something stronger than fear rose inside him. He clenched his fists and looked at the towering guardian, the creature's black eyes fixed on him. For a moment, everything went silent. Aaron felt the universe itself pressing down on him. He wanted to collapse, but he remembered Lyra's words. Only one who could meet its gaze could control it. He did not look away. The guardian's roar shook the heavens once more. The world trembled on the edge of chaos, and Aaron took his first step toward the impossible. Aaron stood with his feet planted firmly on the broken temple floor. The glowing cracks spread beneath him, but he did not move. His eyes locked onto the towering guardian, a being of pure energy and fire. Its black eyes stared back at him, endless and cold, like windows into another world. The villagers outside screamed and fled down the hill. Some fell to the ground, begging the gods to forgive them, while others clutched their children and ran as far from the temple as they could. Yet Aaron remained. The guardian's roar shook the air, but Aaron did not lower his gaze. His heart thundered in his chest, but something deep inside urged him not to look away. Lyra stood behind him, her glowing eyes watching with care. "Do not fear the roar," she said softly. "It is a test. It wants to see if you can endure." Aaron gritted his teeth. His legs trembled, but he stayed firm. The guardian moved closer, its fiery body towering above him. Sparks rained down, burning into the stone floor. It lowered its face until its black eyes were only a breath away from Aaron's own. For a moment all sound vanished. The world was silent except for the pounding of Aaron's heart. Then it happened. The darkness in the guardian's eyes spread like ink, reaching toward Aaron. His mind filled with visions. He saw oceans boiling, mountains breaking, skies filled with fire. He saw endless battles, cities falling, and people crying in despair. He saw the past, the present, and even the future twisting together like threads of a great tapestry. Aaron gasped, his knees weakening. He wanted to scream, to shut his eyes, to run far away, but Lyra's voice cut through the storm inside his head. Do not turn away. Accept what you see. The Guardian chose not to destroy you, but to weigh your spirit. Her words gave him strength. Aaron forced himself to breathe. He straightened his back and stared deeper into the Guardian's eyes. The vision still came, but instead of breaking him, they settled inside him like heavy stones. He accepted them, carrying the weight instead of fighting it. The Guardian let out another roar, but this one was different. It was not anger. It was recognition. Its blazing body grew brighter, then lowered itself until it knelt before Aaron. The ground shook as the Guardian's massive hands touched the stone. Bowing as if in respect, Aaron's eyes widened in shock. It listens to me. Lyra stepped forward, her long hair moving in the hot wind. Yes, you have passed its trial. You did not fall to fear. Now it will obey. Aaron turned to her, confused. But what do I do now? How do I control something so powerful? Her glowing eyes softened. You do not control it as a master. You guide it as a keeper. The Guardian is not evil. It was created to protect the balance of worlds. But when sealed too long, its strength turned wild. You must remind it of its purpose. Aaron's hands shook, but he took a deep breath and faced the Guardian again. You were meant to protect, not destroy, he said firmly. Look at the village. Look at the people. If you tear this world apart, what balance will remain? The Guardian's black eyes flickered. For a moment, the fiery light dimmed as if it was listening. Aaron stepped closer, his voice steady now. If I freed you, then let me ask this. Protect us, not harm us. Stand with us, not against us. The giant figure rose slowly. Its flames roared higher, but the destructive heat softened. It turned its face toward the sky, and with a thunderous cry, the swirling storm above the temple began to calm. The twisted clouds broke apart, and the hole in the heavens closed. Stars peeked through the clearing night. The villagers, hiding below, watched in silence. They could not believe their eyes. The creature they feared was bowing to a boy from their own village. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter as she smiled faintly. You have done what no elder, no warrior, no priest could. You have earned the Guardian's respect. Aaron's body shook with exhaustion, but his spirit felt stronger than ever. Yet even as the winds calmed and the temple stopped trembling, he knew the story was not over. He turned to Lyra. If it was sealed for so long, then why now? Why did it need to be freed? Her smile faded. Shadows passed across her face. Because the true danger is not here yet. The Guardian was only the first key. The blindfold did not only seal it. It sealed the path to something far greater. Aaron's chest grew heavy with dread. Something greater than this? Yes, Lyra whispered. And it is already on its way. The Guardian's flames flickered again, casting long shadows across the ruined temple. The night air grew colder. Somewhere in the distance, a deep horn sounded, echoing across the mountains. The seal had broken, and the world would never be the same again. The night air was still yet heavy with unease. The Guardian stood tall, its flames flickering like a torch that could never die. Beside it stood Aaron, his body trembling from exhaustion but his spirit burning with new strength. Lyra watched him closely, her glowing eyes filled with both pride and sorrow. The villagers had gathered at the bottom of the hill. They were no longer shouting or cursing. Instead, they stood in silence, staring at the sight of the great Guardian bowing before a boy from their own village. Fear had not left their hearts, but it was mixed now with something else. Hope. Aaron turned to Lyra. You said something greater is coming. What is it? Lyra lifted her gaze toward the distant mountains, her voice low and steady. The Guardian was only a lock. My blindfold was its key. Once the cloth was removed, not only did the Guardian rise, but a signal was sent. That horn we heard was not from this land. It was a call, and it will be answered. Aaron's stomach twisted. Answered by who? Her glowing eyes dimmed slightly. By those who walk between worlds. They were the ones who placed me here, bound and blindfolded. They feared what my eyes could open, and so they used me as a seal. Now that the seal is gone, they will return. A chill swept through Aaron's body. The thought of strangers from another world filled him with both curiosity and dread. If they come back, what do they want? Lyra's voice grew heavier. They will want what they always wanted. To keep their rule, to silence anything that threatens their order, and now they will see you as a threat too. Before Aaron could respond, the guardian stirred. Its black eyes turned eastward toward the mountains. The flames around its body flared brighter, casting sharp shadows across the ruined temple. Aaron followed its gaze. In the far distance, faint lights flickered across the mountain ridges. At first they looked like stars, but they moved too quickly, too evenly to be natural. A low humming sound filled the air like metal grinding against the wind. The villagers gasped. Some fell to their knees again, whispering prayers. Others clung to their families, pointing at the strange lights. Aaron's heart pounded. "They're already here," Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, the Watchers have returned." The guardian let out a thunderous cry, shaking the air. It raised its burning arms, ready to defend. The villagers screamed, fearing the beast again, but Aaron raised his hands and shouted, "Wait! It's protecting us!" The giant flames calmed slightly at Aaron's voice, though the guardian kept its eyes locked on the glowing lights in the mountains. Suddenly, the lights grew brighter. Beams of pale blue fire shot down from the sky, striking the mountain slopes. The ground shook with each impact, and the air filled with the sound of cracking stone. The villagers cried out in terror. Some began to run away, but others looked to Aaron with desperate eyes. Though he was only a boy, they saw how the guardian obeyed him. They saw how Lyra spoke to him as if he carried a destiny greater than them all. "Aaron," Lyra said firmly, drawing his eyes back to her, "you must choose now. Will you hide with your people, or will you stand with the guardian to face what comes? The Watchers do not forgive. They will not stop." Aaron looked down at the villagers. He saw their fear, their trembling hands, their hope clinging to him like fragile threads. Then he looked at Lyra, standing with her star-like eyes, and at the guardian, blazing like a living mountain of fire. He took a deep breath. "I will stand." Lyra's expression softened. "Then your path begins tonight." The humming in the air grew louder. From beyond the mountains, shapes began to appear. Tall figures of silver and shadow, their forms both human and not, descended slowly through the dark sky. Their eyes glowed the same pale blue as the beams that had torn into the mountains. They carried staffs that pulsed with light, and their voices echoed in a language that shook the air. The villagers screamed and scattered. Aaron's knees felt weak, but he planted his feet firmly. The guardian roared beside him, its flames leaping higher. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter than ever. The first of the Watchers stepped onto the earth, their silver feet sinking into the cracked stone of the mountain path. They turned their glowing eyes toward the temple, and in that moment Aaron knew the true battle had only just begun. The air grew colder as the Watchers descended. Their silver bodies gleamed under the night sky, their glowing blue eyes fixed on the broken temple. Each step they took left faint marks of light on the ground, as though the earth itself feared their presence. The villagers hid behind rocks and trees, peering with wide eyes at the strangers who had returned after centuries. Their whispers spread quickly. Some called the Watchers gods, others demons. None dared to move closer. Aaron stood in the temple ruins, his heart racing but his feet firm. The guardian towered beside him, flames rising high, a shield of fire against the darkness. Lyra stood close, her glowing eyes calm but watchful. The first Watcher raised its staff, and the humming sound filled the air again. The blue light pulsed from the staff's tip, spreading across the ground like ripples on water. When the wave touched the temple floor, Aaron felt the stone beneath his feet tremble. A voice echoed, deep and layered, not spoken with a mouth but pressed directly into the minds of all who heard. "The seal is broken, the blindfold removed, the balance undone." The villagers cried out in fear, clutching their heads. Some fell to their knees, begging the Watchers for mercy. Aaron clenched his fists. He forced himself to answer, his voice loud though his throat was dry. The blindfold kept her in chains. She was suffering. Why should she remain trapped forever? The Watchers turned their glowing eyes toward him. Another voice echoed, sharp as metal. The blindfold was not punishment. It was protection. "You have set danger free." Aaron pointed at the guardian, who stood ready at his side. "The guardian is not danger. It bowed to me. It chose to protect, not destroy." The Watchers moved closer, their silver forms gliding across the ground without sound. "The guardian obeys now, but its fire will burn again. That is its nature. You cannot change it." Aaron's chest tightened, but before he could speak, Lyra stepped forward. Her star-like eyes glowed brighter than ever. "You fear what you do not control," she said. "That is why you bound me here, why you blindfolded my eyes. But your rule is not balance. It is chains." The Watcher's glow pulsed brighter at her words. The lead figure raised its staff higher and the hum grew louder, shaking the stones of the temple. You were placed here for a reason. Your eyes are a door to places beyond. Left unbound, they will open paths that should remain closed. We will seal you again by force if needed. The guardian roared, its flames bursting higher. The ground shook and the villagers screamed. Aaron stepped in front of Lyra, his body trembling but his voice firm. No, you will not take her again. If her eyes are a doorway, then maybe they are meant to be opened, not hidden. The watcher's blue eyes turned to him, and for a moment the air grew still. Then the lead figure lowered its staff toward Aaron. A beam of blue light shot out fast and fierce. Before it could strike, the guardian moved. Its flaming arm swept across, blocking the beam. Fire and light clashed, sending sparks raining across the temple. The ground split further, and a thunderous sound echoed through the valley. The villagers cried out, some fleeing into the night, others watching in awe as a boy, a woman with starry eyes, and a giant of fire stood against the silver watchers. Aaron shielded his face from the sparks. His ears rang, but he forced himself to stay firm. He looked up at the guardian.
Stand with us,
he shouted. The guardian roared in answer, flames blazing brighter than before. It struck the ground with its fiery hands, sending a wall of fire surging forward. The watchers raised their staffs, their blue light forming a shield that met the flames head-on. The clash lit up the night sky like day, the force shaking the mountains. Lyra placed her hand on Aaron's shoulder. You must guide it. The guardian listens to you alone. Without your will, it will only burn without purpose. Aaron nodded, his eyes locked on the towering creature of fire. Guardian, hold the flames. Protect, do not destroy. The fire shifted at his words. Instead of wild waves, it formed a ring around the temple, shielding them from the watchers. The silver figures struck their staffs against the ground, sending more beams of blue light. But the guardian's fire held firm. The watchers' voices echoed again, filled with warning. You do not understand what you have unleashed. The doorway will open wider. This world cannot survive it. Aaron's voice shook, but he did not back down. Then teach us. Do not chain us. Stand with us instead of against us. For the first time, the watchers hesitated. Their glowing eyes flickered, their voices fell silent. But in the distance, the mountains rumbled once more. The earth groaned, and a dark shape began to rise from the horizon. Larger than the guardian, darker than night itself, it moved like a storm-given form. Even the watchers turned toward it in silence. Aaron's breath caught in his throat. What is that? Lyra's eyes dimmed with sorrow. That is what I feared. The true danger has awakened. The dark shape moving across the horizon was enormous, larger than any mountain in the valley. It moved with slow, deliberate steps, each one shaking the ground beneath the village. Its body was like shadow and smoke, shifting constantly, impossible to fully see. Even the watchers, masters of light and power, paused in fear. Aaron's legs trembled, but he held his ground. He looked at Lyra. Her glowing eyes were sharper than ever, and her lips pressed together in determination. That is the real danger, she said softly. It was sealed away centuries ago because nothing could stop it without the guardian and the eyes combined. Aaron swallowed hard. Then what do we do? Lyra placed her hand on his shoulder. You must stand firm. The guardian will follow your commands, but it will not act without your will. You must face it together. The dark form stepped closer. Its shadow stretched over the temple like a wave. The villagers at the bottom of the hill screamed in terror. Some fell to their knees, crying for protection, while others ran for their lives. The watchers raised their staffs, sending beams of pale blue light toward the approaching shape. But the dark form did not stop. It moved with purpose, its presence pressing on the world itself. Trees bent and cracked, stones split, and the wind carried a chilling sound that made the villagers shiver. Aaron looked at the guardian. We must stop it, he said. His voice was steady, though fear gripped him. Do not let it destroy our village. Stand with me. The guardian's flaming eyes locked on Aaron as if reading his very soul. Then it roared, a sound so loud that the mountains echoed it. Its flames surged forward, forming a ring of protection around the temple. The fire did not spread blindly. It moved with purpose, rising to block the dark shape. The shadows met the fire, and the clash was terrifying. Sparks flew into the air, winds howled, and the earth shook with each strike. The dark form pressed forward, and each step pushed the flames back slightly. Aaron took a deep breath. He knew he could not let fear control him. Guardian, he shouted. Hold the line. Protect them, not destroy. The fire shifted, circling the villagers below to shield them from the advancing darkness. The Guardian's massive arms rose, and the air shimmered with heat and light. The Watchers raised their staffs again, trying to pierce the shadows, but even their combined power was not enough. Lyra stepped forward beside Aaron. "Look into my eyes," she said. Her glowing gaze met his. "Remember what you saw when you freed me. The eyes see more than the world around us. Use that vision. You can guide the Guardian to strike with purpose, not anger." Aaron nodded. He closed his eyes for a brief moment, remembering the vast universe he had seen in Lyra's eyes. The stars, the paths of energy, the threads of life and balance. He opened his eyes again, and the Guardian seemed to respond to him instantly. Its flames moved faster, sharper, striking the shadow in precise arcs. The dark form roared in frustration. Pieces of it tore away in the fire, dissolving into smoke, but the core remained. It pressed forward relentlessly. Aaron's heart pounded. "We have to push it back," he said. He raised his arms as if lifting his will into the sky. "Focus on the weak spots. Protect the village. Do not let it pass." The Guardian obeyed. Its massive fiery hand swept and struck, hitting the moving shadows with force. Each strike forced the dark shape backwards, step by step. The Watchers watched in awe and fear, realizing that a boy and a woman with glowing eyes could command a power greater than their own. The villagers peered from their hiding places. Some dared to cheer quietly, seeing hope in the impossible battle. Lyra's gaze softened as she watched Aaron. "You are stronger than you know," she whispered. "This is only the beginning, but the world still has a chance because of you." The dark shape paused, sensing resistance it had not felt in centuries. Its glowing red core pulsed with anger, and the wind carried a roar that shook the hills. Aaron's knees were weak, his arms tired, but he did not look away. The Guardian stood firm at his side, ready to strike again. The Watchers prepared to aid him, their glowing staffs raised in warning. The battle was far from over. The dark shape had only begun to test the strength of a boy, a woman, and a Guardian that had slept for centuries. But for the first time in 200 years, hope burned brighter than fear. The dark shape trembled as the Guardian's flames struck again. Sparks and shadows collided in a storm of fire and smoke, lighting the night sky in violent flashes. Aaron's hands shook, but he held them high, guiding the Guardian with every ounce of his will. The Watchers hovered nearby, their silver forms glowing faintly. They did not interfere, watching instead as Aaron directed the Guardian with courage no one expected. Even they seemed surprised that a boy could command such power. Lyra stood beside him, her glowing eyes scanning the dark form. "Its strength is old," she said. "It was sealed for a reason. But you have learned to guide the Guardian. That is what matters now." Aaron swallowed hard. "How do we finish it?" She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Focus on the heart, the core that drives it. The Guardian's fire can reach it, but only if you see it as I do." Aaron closed his eyes briefly and remembered the vision in Lyra's eyes, the patterns of energy, the flow of light and shadow, the hidden weaknesses that no one could see with normal sight. He opened his eyes and pointed toward the center of the dark shape. The Guardian surged forward, flames wrapping around its massive arms like liquid fire. It struck at the core, hitting with perfect force. The dark form let out a sound like breaking mountains, a noise so deep it shook the temple and echoed across the valley. Pieces of the shadow dissolved into smoke and ash. The Watchers hissed, their staffs sending beams of light to support the Guardian, but Aaron did not rely on them. He focused, guiding the fire with calm determination, striking again and again. The dark shape faltered, staggering backward under the relentless assault. Lyra stepped forward, her glowing eyes blazing. "Now, Aaron, use the final strike." Aaron took a deep breath and lifted his hands. The Guardian rose, towering higher than ever, its flames brighter than the sun. With a final roar, it struck directly at the core of the dark shape. A blinding flash of light filled the valley, burning shadows into nothingness. The air shook violently, and for a moment the world seemed to hold its breath. When the light faded, the dark shape was gone. The mountains were still, the air calm. The temple trembled slightly, but the danger had passed. The Watchers hovered silently, their eyes wide in disbelief. Aaron fell to his knees exhausted, but a wave of relief washed over him. The Guardian stood beside him, its flame still warm but gentle now. As if acknowledging the end of the battle, Lyra looked at him with pride. "You have done what no one else could. The doorway is closed, the guardian is at peace, and the watchers have witnessed the power of a heart, guided by courage. The watchers murmured among themselves in a language Aaron did not understand. Then one of them raised a hand and spoke slowly. The boy, the guardian, the one with eyes of stars. You have proven that balance can be restored without chains. We see now that old ways are not always right. They began to ascend slowly into the sky, their silver forms fading into the stars. The villagers emerged from their hiding places, their eyes wide in awe. Some approached the temple cautiously, whispering words of thanks and wonder. Aaron rose to his feet, feeling the weight of 200 years of fear and silence lift from the valley. The guardian knelt beside him, bowing its massive head in respect. Lyra placed a hand on his arm, her expression softening. You have changed everything, she said quietly. The village will live, the guardian will guard, and I am free. All because you dared to see the truth. Aaron looked down at the villagers. They stared at him in wonder and gratitude. He felt something new, a sense of hope and responsibility he had never known before. The temple was quiet now, the air calm, the night sky full of stars. The wind carried the scent of flowers and fresh earth, a sign of life returning to the valley. The river, thin and weak before, glimmered faintly in the moonlight, promising growth. Lyra turned to the guardian. Stay, my friend. Watch over them, as you were meant to do. The great creature's flames dimmed to a soft glow. It lowered itself to the ground, a sentinel once more, but now guided by trust rather than fear. Aaron took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what he had done, but also the joy of victory. He had faced fear, guided the guardian, and opened a path for hope that had been closed for centuries. The villagers gathered around, offering smiles, food, and blessings. They no longer whispered fearfully of Lyra, but spoke of courage, trust, and the boy who had changed their world. Lyra smiled at Aaron, her star-like eyes reflecting the calm night sky. The story of the blindfold is over, she said. The story of courage has just begun. Aaron looked at the stars above, the temple behind him, and the guardian beside him. He knew that many challenges might come in the future, but for now the valley was safe. He had learned that seeing the truth, no matter how impossible it seemed, was the greatest strength of all. And for the first time in 200 years, the world felt full of light and hope.